Mal, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. What we're looking at here is the monthly chart of CleanSpark. And if I pull up the Ichimoku cloud, and I keep talking about this over and over again, it's stuck in a range on declining volume, looks like a bull flag. It looks like it's probably going to end up breaking into the cloud and go a lot higher because it's been forming higher highs and higher lows. And what it has really also done is has flipped the tank and the blue line over here from resistance to support. That's exactly what it's been doing. So these behavior are bullish, with the exception that price just kind of gone sideways for a few months and really boring and scaring everybody. If I had to choose a direction right now, it's stuck between the Tenkan Kijun and the cloud. We've tried to penetrate the cloud for about the 6th month in a row. I really do think that the month of July or the month of August is probably going to be it. It's going to probably end up being punched in the cloud. And when it does that, because it's been consolidating for so long, the next move is going to be pretty powerful. You did have a bullish cross over here on the Tenkan and Kijun, the blue and the red line over here, and they're stacked the right way. So this is bullish, right? This cross happened around February 2024. You have a little bit of follow through. You back tested it twice, and it looks like we're finding support over here. I wonder what this difference is between this bull flag over here that I think is going to go up, and this bull flag over here that didn't work out so well and just plummet down for about 2.5 years. You know what the big difference is? The big difference is you actually have a bullish cross here, and you're able to get back about both of these Tenkan and Kijun line. And you back tested it, found support. Over here, what happened? You broke through the blue line, the Tenkan, got rejected here, the Kijun, got stuck between the two, broke down underneath the Tenkan. You had a little bit of a bullish cross over there, but that's too late. Prices are right underneath of it. Did a little bit of back test, failed to find support, and it just plummeted. Do you have the same problem over here so far? No, you don't. You had a bullish cross and you have follow through. You have back test. So far as finding support. Be bullish at support, right? That's what they say. So that's the Ichimoku cloud. I want to also put the Super Ichi cloud, which takes into account of the super trend. And you got the bullish cross about a month late here. It was going to be around March of 2024. And once you had the bullish cross over here, you also got rejected here, the cloud over here too. Basically a very, very similar look between Ichimoku and the Super Ichi cloud. And you can also see very clearly that it flipped the Tenkan from resistance here into support, right? This is pretty bullish behavior. Right now you're finding support right here at the monthly Tenkan, whereas the monthly Tenkan located at 15.04. Price is just kind of testing that level here throughout the day. So that is the monthly chart of CleanSpark. If you look at the weekly chart, the first thing first, you just look at how tight the Bollinger Band is squeezing. It's squeezing pretty tight right now. And it looks like we kind of broke underneath the 20-week, and the 20-week is starting to kind of negative slope here a little bit. And we're starting to get a little bit below the pullback support band, which opens up the possibility for it to go lower. And if this is truly a move of a higher low and higher high, and we're trying to find a higher low, the low that I think we would hit would be somewhere around the 13 range, which may be where the lower Bollinger Band is going to be when it hits it, right? And that would still be a bullish look because that would just be a strong high volume breakout with a back test on a declining volume right around the breakout of this horizontal level over here around 13 and a half, somewhere around there, you know. So that would still be relatively a bullish thing if that ends up happening. And but there's currently no really any guarantee that that's necessarily gonna do that. I'm gonna take out the Bollinger Band here. I'm gonna do something a little bit different, and this is gonna bring up my GAN if I do that. But if you just look and see what support level are we at right now, besides the monthly Tenkan I just showed you earlier, if you do a little bit of a anchored volume weighted average price, the VWAP, you can see that right now this VWAP has served as pretty decent support over here, right? If it ends up breaking underneath, where is it going to find support? Maybe another support over here. And if it ends up breaking underneath, maybe there's some support underneath here too. So I think you got plenty of support down underneath below here, because most holders right now really started from around late 2023. They're still a little bit in profit, so they're not going to be as encouraged to sell because they are still in profit, right? And if you also look at the GAN here, I was mentioning about potentially around $13, right? Well, that could just be back testing the arc underneath right here, right? yeah, there you go. It would just be back testing the arc underneath right here, right? And there could still be a bullish look to it, and it could still bounce back to the top of the arc over here and go a lot higher, right? And if you also look at the Super Ichi cloud, when around 13, maybe it hits around here in around August before it goes up higher. That's always a possibility, right? The Ichimoku cloud is a little bit scary because the cloud's all the way underneath at like $9 or $10. That's a little bit scary. Could price go down over here before going up higher. That's possible, but just higher time frame and also looking at the Bollinger Band is just not really necessarily supporting it have to go down that far, right? I think most likely it's going to be maybe like, if it has to go down that far, and it doesn't have to, but if it goes that far, it would be the confluence of this bottom of this arc over here with the lower Bollinger Band. And I think that would be just like a liquidity grab before going up higher again. That would be my guess, right? But a big move is coming because the Bollinger Band is squeezing. So I think a bigger move is coming. I just don't know when and which direction exactly. Up first or down, then up, I don't know. But I still favor bullish continuation after this move. If you also just look at the EMA ribbon, this EMA ribbon consists of the 20-week and the 50-week EMA. If 20-week stacks above the 50, it's going to be green. If 20-week is underneath the 50, it's going to be red. Right now, you have a really nice and thick separation between the 20 and the 50 EMA. Got a really nice ribbon over here as support, right? Could it go down a little bit further to the middle of the ribbon or even lower the ribbon before going up higher, kind of like how it did over here? It's possible, but it's still a nice bull trend so far, right? That's the whole point of really looking at this. It's still a nice bull trend so far. So a couple other things too, like really the volume of selling is not really there. It's just been declining. So it's just still consolidating. It's still trying to pick a direction. And if you're looking at the whale momentum, you still have about like 50% whales so far. So the whales are still in, although retail has just been kind of fluctuating and the whales have really been declining. But usually when during period of consolidation, you may have some whale declining, and all it takes is just some volume to really reverse that trend. Right now, you don't really have much volume. Plus, again, the EMA ribbon is really, really thick right now. You just had a buy signal here in November 2023. So I'm not really too worried about that at this point. And I originally, if you look at the RSI, see if you find any kind of like divergences. Let's take a look at it. If you look at a divergence, I'm not really seeing any bearish divergences anymore. If anything, I'm starting to see more of a bullish divergence or hidden bullish divergence, I should say. This keeps on getting built up because price really went from like $8 over to like 15, and RSI has gotten reset, right? So because of that, I think RSI says that we might be ready to go soon. But I just don't know when it's going to be. Maybe July, maybe August is kind of what I'm thinking. But yeah, that's really CleanSpark. If I have to look at some of the target levels, I think we have to break above the 17 and a half. And I think 22 is also going to be a pretty big level. The horizontal zone around like 28, 29 is going to be a big level. But then if you're able to break above all of this resistance, and you're talking about some of the higher targets, if I have to give like a cycle target, which people ask me all the time, it's kind of silly to give because we're still at resistance. We haven't broken above yet, so who is there to say that the cycle is going to end here at like 80s or 110 or up in 150, right? Or even up in like 400. Who's there to say that it's going to end there? Because we haven't had to break out all these resistance quite just yet. And when you're at resistance, be a little bit more cautious. Don't be crazy. Think about cycle highs and things like that. But I just gave you some numbers for what that's worth. A couple other things too. If you also want to look and see whether or not the institutions are still in CleanSpark, institutions are still in for CleanSpark, because you can still see that there's overall a trend of increasing in institution for CleanSpark. Another thing to look at for CleanSpark is you want to stack it against what Bitcoin is doing, and it really does look pretty decent if you ask me. If you look at the monthly, if I put the Ichimoku cloud, it looks like the CleanSpark over Bitcoin chart has had a bullish cross. And right now we're just basically back testing the Tenkan, and we're like right at the Tenkan over here. So there's some room for potential outperformance of CleanSpark over Bitcoin that might be happening soon if this turns out to be pretty decent support. And if this chart ends up pushing up to the cloud, then CleanSpark is going to outperform Bitcoin potentially. Now, those are just thoughts, right? But anyway, I'm going to keep on going here. Mara, let's look at Mara. What is it doing right now? Tick off the Gann and the Fibonacci level. You can clearly see it's stuck in the range. On the Ichimoku cloud, on the Super-Ichi cloud, you can clearly see it's still stuck in the range, right? And I think the range is probably not going to be broken until you break about like 22, 24, which has been having a hard time doing. And that's really kind of what Mara is doing. It's still stuck in a range, but overall trend is still up, right? Higher highs, higher low, higher high, higher low. So overall trend still tends to want to go up a little bit further over time. And if you also look at the weekly chart, the Ichimoku cloud on the weekly tells you we're finding support over here on the cloud. And it's trying to bounce. It just hasn't really done that quite just yet. And if you also look at the Bollinger Band, you can see that it's starting to squeeze more and more because price has consolidated more and more over time. And if you also look at the Super-Ichi cloud here on the weekly, you can see one very interesting thing is that price is just kind of stuck underneath the Tenkan and Kijun. It has been trying to break above and even enter the cloud, and it's trying to break above the cloud together with breaking above the Tenkan Kijun, but it's been trying for weeks number 1 to 8 weeks now, right? 10 weeks actually. And it's also got a little bit of an ascending triangle look to it. So this is actually like a little bit of a bullish look to it. I just think that price is probably going to end up breaking above this range. If it breaks above like 21 and 24, I think it can go to the 30s in a hurry, but it just hasn't done that quite just yet. Right. Couple other things too. One is, let's take a look at the EMA ribbon. You actually unfortunately had a little bit of a sell signal over here, but again, follow through by a very nice hammer bottom candle over here. So you end up bouncing back on the top of the ribbon, and you're basically just kind of back testing the top of the ribbon. What happened when last time you have something similar like that? You know, it looked like a little bit of similar look over here before it breaks out, right? So I'm not saying that this is going to be like the same thing, but I just think that I'm seeing things that are looking pretty similar in terms of morphology, in terms of market structure. And this whole consolidation range has been on declining volume, so I'm not really necessarily that bearish on what I'm seeing. On top of that, if you also look at the MCDX Plus, to look at whales, it's still greater than 50% whale. There's still not a whole heck of a lot of retail really entering Mara, so it still looks pretty decent. If you look at the weekly RSI, I'm not really seeing any kind of bearish divergence to get concerned about. If you also look over at fintel.io and you want to see what the institutions are doing, and what the institutions are doing is they are still in it. They haven't really bought significantly, but they're still in it, and there's still a slightly increased trend in terms of institutional ownership. So that's promising, right? A couple other things too. If you look at Mara over BTC, and I'm going to get rid of all these indicators over here. I'm going to pull up the Ichimoku cloud. You can see that Mara over BTC is trying to have a trend change, is trying to turn the Tenkan and the blue line over here from resistance to support, and is trying to push it up, maybe towards through the baseline towards the cloud over here, which means that there's a potential for Mara to outperform Bitcoin coming up soon too. And that is Mara. The next one that I'm going to talk about is Bitfarms. Now, when it comes to Bitfarms, it looks better than Mara. Oh, yeah, I can go back to Mara. I do want to show you some price targets. People keep asking me about price target. I think it's a little bit too premature to say, right? Let's break about 22-24 range first. Break about this Fibonacci level, get to 30s. Break about that level you see you got rejected there previously, right? Then you might be starting to thinking about talking about some of the higher levels are here. Maybe it hits the arc up here around the 50s to 80s, and then maybe it breaks through, maybe it doesn't. If it ends up breaking through, you can hit some of the horizontal value up here around like 339, which I don't necessarily guarantee is going to be the cycle high. It could end up just being here, and then that could be it, right? But we're at resistance, so let's not even talk about that right now. But if you're curious, I just told you my numbers. Bitfarms, monthly, get rid of the Gann. Going to the Ichimoku cloud, it's looking a little bit better than Mara. Reason why I say that is because Mara had a bullish cross, but it probably stuck in a range. But Bitfarms actually broke above the Tenkan and is trying to back test the Tenkan here a little bit, right? Right now the Tenkan is around 2.46 and price is 2.45, 2.44, somewhere around there. So it's trying to find support over here at this zone. And if you look at the Super Ichimoku, it tells you a little bit something different. It's still stuck in the range, right? But we're in the middle of the range. Most likely it's going to gravitate towards like $3 over here. And that's kind of the monthly chart for Bitfarms. If you want to look at a little bit more in detail, I can show you. Actually, this is more helpful. Look at it again here. There's a lot of confluence right now in terms of what it's doing. I can also put up the Ichimoku cloud here. But before I do that, I just have to say this is the ARC support level. It looks like it's finding pretty decent support right there, right? And you also have a little bit of a breakdown of the 0.236 level at 2.49, but I think it's probably going to end up finding support on Friday. If anything, even if it breaks down underneath, I think next week we're going to end up getting back above of it. We're testing the ARC, and on top of that, if you look at the Ichimoku cloud, we're also kind of getting close to testing this Tenkan over here, right? It just had a little hard time breaking above the kitchen, the red line over here, just kind of stuck in the range so far, right? But it's above the cloud. That's what's important. It's above the cloud, which tells you that this is a little bit more of a promising situation here. If it's able to find support at this confluence over here, and if it's able to, push up from here, then you're really talking about $3, $4, $5. That's kind of what we're really looking at here, Another thing too, do I think that price has to go down that even further to test on the levels? No, because in addition to the FIB level, in addition to the ARC here, in addition to what I was showing you with the Ichimoku cloud with the Tenkan, if I put up the Super Ichi cloud, you would see what I'm talking about. Price is really just kind of testing the Super Ichi cloud over here too. The top of the Super Ichi cloud is going to be, I think somewhere around I want to say 2.5, I want to say it's 2.46 or somewhere around there. So it's just basically back testing the Super Ichi cloud over here too after a very, very nice breakout, on declining volume after a nice volume breakout, right? So everything is still looking pretty decent for Bitfarms right now. Plenty of support. Again, higher levels, let's break about $3, $4, $5. Then you're talking about the ARC here around $7.50. Then you're talking about some of the upper levels over here around 15 as the golden ratio, 1.618 Fibonacci extension. Up here, you'd be talking about the 2.618, which is around $23. That could be where the cycle ends, right? Do I think it's going to go up to 70, 90? Probably not. And I think it's silly to talk about those numbers because we're still stuck over here and trying to test support. So let's not go crazy, right? You're talking about what Bitfarm is doing when it comes to institutional ownership. Let's pull it up real quick. And the answer is it's still increasing. Overall, not much change for the month of July yet, but it's still increasing. And if you also look at what the Bitfarm over BTC chart is doing, it's looking pretty decent. It looks like it's trying to backtest the Tenkan here. Looks like it's trying to bounce above. It really looks like it wants to gravitate back to the Super Ichi cloud. If you look at Ichimoku cloud, it also looks like it's trying to gravitate to the cloud, but so far it's just getting a little bit rejected here at the kitchen, which is no big deal. Overall, the trend is still looking pretty decent. It reclaimed the Tenkan, right? So I think Bitfarm is still looking pretty decent. If anything, I think it does look more decent than Mara. A couple other things too, in terms of other charts. Let's look at CIFR. Let's look at CIFR instead. Turn off the GAN, go to the CIFR, take a look at the monthly. You can see that nothing has changed. It's just been stuck underneath $5.50 until price breaks about 5.5. It's still stuck, right? You had a bullish cross, things are above the Tenkan. This is a bullish look. Overall, it's been forming higher highs and higher lows. This is a very, very bullish look. I don't really have to show much. It is still using the Super Ichi Tenkan as support, right? This is a very, very bullish look. So what's going on with this? Let's look at a weekly chart and put up the GAN here and tell you exactly what's going on. It is stuck in a very, very long-term range over here. That's exactly what is going on, is that it is trying to break above the 5.5 level, having some hard time doing it, but it's trying very, very hard. It's getting a little bit closer to the angle. So maybe the end of the line over here is probably going to end up pushing above, right? So it might happen within the next few weeks or so, where CIFR can break above and cause a very, very powerful move for it to go up a lot higher. And when it really breaks above that, I think $8 is going to be in the natural next level, $10 is going to be the natural next level. And then you try and challenge the mid-teens all the way to like maybe 17, 18. And then you're talking about some of the crazy targets up here around 40s, 50s, and 60s. I won't go crazy because I'm not a crazy cat. So what you're seeing here, though, things are looking more bullish, even on the weekly Ichimoku cloud. It's just having a hard time breaking above, but it's above the cloud, and it looks like it's building up a lot of energy to try and push above. You also see that it's kind of backtesting a very important volume shelf over here. So there's plenty of support over here, plenty of support in the cloud, still stuck in the range, but looks like it's building a lot of energy to try and push above. We'll see when that happens, but I really do think that this is probably going to end up happening sooner rather than later. Now, the one chart that I think everybody really wants to talk about is IREN. What the heck is going on with IREN? Why is IREN down so much? Is it because of the short report? Or is it because it's a technical correction that you would expect to happen anyway? My answer to you, if I have to give you an answer, would be I think it's because it just simply had to come back and touch the upper Bollinger Band. Where is the upper Bollinger Band located at? 10.28. It just simply had to come back and back test the upper Bollinger Band here on the monthly. It was way too far extended and it had to be done. It did it, bounced from it. And so far things are still looking pretty bullish, with the exception you do have a little bit of a tweezer top over here, which is generally not a good look. It's just like a tweezer bottom over here. It's not the best look, but it had to do what it had to do. It was overextended. The Bollinger Band is still expanding. I think it's going to keep expanding over time. And I don't think the bull trend is over just because of a down day of about 13%. Ichimoku is not going to tell you much. Bullish cross, above both Tenkan and Kijun. Tsubichi is not going to tell you much above the Tenkan, right? Look at the weekly here. What can you show in the weekly? What happened today? Did we find some pretty important support over here today? At 10.24. Let's see. So the Ichimoku cloud. Tenkan, where's it located? Around $10. Right. I mean, like things really got very close to support here. What about the Tsubichi cloud? Where's the Tenkan? 10.46. Did it bounce from it today? Yes. Yes, it did. Right. Oh, this is actually a 2-week chart. If you look at the weekly, this is amazing. If you look at the weekly, you can see like why price closed at the price that it closed at today at 11.19. Why is that? That's exactly where the weekly Tsubichi cloud on the top right there is located. It's around 11.24, and the red line over here, the Kijun, is around 11.19. It bounced from underneath, right? Sorry, if you look at the Ichimoku, it bounced from the Ichimoku. The blue line actually is like 10.2, right? Bounced from that. And where it bounced to? It bounced to the baseline over here on the Tsubichi cloud at around 11.2. So you're finding some pretty decent support over here. Does IREN have to go down further, even though you have a very, very scary like bearish engulfing weekly candle looking over here? Do all the bearish engulfing candles always work out? No, right? Does it have to go down a little bit further now because of this bearish engulfing candle? No, the week's not even closed yet. And even if we end up closing a week looking like this, we are still at some pretty important support over here, right? So I'm still not really too worried about IREN. I actually thought that when price was around 10.2 something, it was probably a good buying range because it was right there at the Tenkan of the weekly Ichimoku cloud. So you're having a lot of confluence of support over here. Now, if it breaks down, where's it going to go? Well, underneath over here around like 9.5, 9.6, right? What about other potential support? In Tsubichi, you don't really have much support anymore. You're really testing those support right now. But again, Ichimoku, 9.6, 9.7. And the Bollinger support band is going to be around like 8.5 to around 7.5, somewhere around there, right? Does it have to go down that far to really test those kind of things? No, I don't think so. What about the GAN? Well, the GAN doesn't really show you too much here either. You have a very important horizontal line over here is around like $8, right? Does it have to go all the way down to $8 to test the breakout of this level over here? My answer is no. I actually think there's a possibility we close the week above 11.4. So we'll see, right? But you cannot ignore some of these indicators. You cannot ignore the fact that it's trying to backtest a lot of these very important support zones over here. So that is IREN. If you're talking about breaking above, right now we just got rejected for resistance. So kind of silly for me to talk about longer term targets, but if you break above, you're talking about breaking above the arc over here into high teens. Then you're talking about 22. Then you're talking about the arc over here. It depends on where you hit. It's going to be around 40. Then you're talking about the horizontal line over here is like 60. And if it breaks above all that, it keeps on going crazy. Then you're talking about maybe 10x over here at the arc around like 100, 110, somewhere around there, right? But it's silly to talk about those price target because right now we're not quite there yet. We're still kind of back testing support and see where we can go from there, right? So that's where we are when it comes to IREN. One last one I want to talk about is WULF. Had a very similar appearance as IREN, had a little bit of a bearish engulfing candle over here. And you also got rejected on the top of the arc over here, right? Very, very similar morphology. Go back to the monthly, turn off the again here. What are we seeing? Is this a bull trend? Oh yeah, bullish cross above both Tenkan and Kijun. Tsubichi Cloud stuck in a range, but reclaiming the Tenkan here, right? These are bullish indications over here on the weekly. The Ichimoku is not going to show you too much. It's just way above that. All of these, you know. But the Tsubichi, what's Tsubichi doing today? It backtested the Tenkan, right? So you're trying to backtest support. Again, you have a little bit of a bearish engulfing look to it, but it's backtesting support and so far it bounced from it, right? So I cannot really necessarily be that bearish when it comes to WULF. And a couple things too, if you look at the Bollinger Band on the weekly, is just simply way outside last week and it's closed back inside, you know, no big deal. This is really kind of what you expect. Looking at the GAN, I think we might potentially end up closing the week on Friday above the 0.5 Fibonacci level. You might bounce back up. That's kind of what I would, you know, suspect that it might end up happening, right? Because underneath you don't really have much of these like GAN support, but you're really talking about the Tsubichi Cloud, you know, finding support over here. Ichimoku Cloud, you also have some support that are quickly rising around $4 and also around like 3.6, right? If shall it need those support levels, it will be there. Do I think it's going to need it right then and now? Probably not. Overall, it still looks like we went way too far, way too fast, got rejected a very important arc over here, and we're trying to find some support underneath, form a higher low before going up higher. How high is the higher low going to go? Is it going to be like where we are right now? Is it going to go to like, you know, $4? Is it going to go to like 3.5, 3.2, somewhere around there? I don't know. I mean, either way, it'll still be a bullish look. And it really depends on what Bitcoin's doing. I really do think that today was a pretty big day with CPI, really cool. And the market makers are going to try to whipsaw everybody and trying to grab liquidity and trying to screw everybody from both the upside and downside. So I think it's getting rejected. Both IREN and WULF is getting rejected where I would expect them to get rejected from. And they also today found support where I would thought they would potentially find support from, right? So I'm not really going to be that worried about it. We will see. But I'm also not really that interested in buying here. I mean, I already bought from before. I'm not really interested in buying IREN like right where it is right now. Although if you were to buy, I think 10.2 something when the price got there earlier today probably was a pretty decent buy zone. But we will see. Thank you so much for listening to these Bitcoin miner videos. Have a good one. Bye.